All right, welcome to the Useless Potatoes podcast. Us here at Wizards of the Coast would like you to understand that we hear your feedback. We understand your concerns. We want you to know that the OGL 1.1 was meant for us to be better stewards of the game and to help bring better content to the fans. Dan, what do you think?
Is it long enough that I can swear yet? Have we been live long enough that I can do that and get away with it?
It's been approximately like 30
Has
seconds,
it
I
been
want to
long?
say.
I have some things to say, and boy,
Um,
are they colorful. Fun fact: do you know what my favorite word is?
Fudge.
Sure.
Hippocampus.
I'll give you a hint. I'm from an Irish family. Anyways,
Shepherd's pie.
yes. So,
Rainbows.
marmalade. Okay, I'm gonna read for those who haven't seen this yet. Hi everyone, how you doing? In case you didn't see the title, yeah, we're gonna be discussing The Thing. Oh my God, are we on the?
Wow.
Yeah,
How demeaning. Wizards of the Coast put in so much effort to screw people over, and you're just gonna call it the thing?
I
Wow.
can't believe it.
A
So
tone deaf executive worked so hard on that.
okay, so I knew how bad the response was going to be when the Twitter statement from Dungeons and Dragons was this. Like when it started with this before you get into the article. Over the past week, we have witnessed an incredible outpour of passion and dedication from our community working together to protect and cultivate the inclusive environment of Dungeons and Dragons. Please read our update on the open game license. The minute they start throwing that crap in there, that buzzword, the inclusive environment, you know they are backpedaling and they are doing their absolute best to try and get as much sympathy and help that they can get. That is a phrase you use when you're some spineless, worthless company doing your absolute damnedest to see if you can squeeze what little sympathy you can, because guys, they're the good guys. Look, they care about the marginalized, so therefore they can't be a bad, evil company. Never mind, they're a multi-million-dollar corporation doing their absolute best to screw third-party content creators. I'm not angry.
So, I detect a little bit of anger.
You have
I don't know,
no
he's-
idea. Do you know why I started this channel?
Get bitches.
So, I don't know if you've ever seen my old content on this channel, the first videos I made. They were all discussing ethics in journalism, discussing events happening in the gaming industry, corruption, people being awful to developers, people not being paid, people being mistreated, and companies lying to their customers. And I still cover that stuff. That's still my main focus outside of reviews. So, whenever I see stuff like this, it just boils my piss. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's tone deaf and infuriating. Because this went through people. Like this went through
Yes.
multiple people.
And I gotta point something out too. I hate to do this to everyone. I really do. But something needs to be pointed out here that people are missing. Everyone and their mother is blaming Hasbro for this. That this is something Wizards of the Coast would never have done were it not for the fact that Hasbro has gotten their evil, greedy corporate little hooks into Wizards of the Coast. And you know what? To an extent, maybe that's true. But something I need everyone to remember was in that meeting, the first time people started realizing something wasn't right was when the statement was made that D&D felt under-monetized. And you know who made that statement? It wasn't the CEO of Hasbro, it was the CEO of Wizards of the Coast. This is them. This is them. They are doing this.
Oh yeah. So first of all, I want to get through the meme real quick, just so that way we can like deep dive into the heavy stuff. What did you think of the "they won and so did we" line? What did you think of that?
Oh god, that'd be like walking into your apartment, okay, and finding out that your girlfriend is banging another dude because you walked into him mid-coitus, okay? Like he is in there just a going, and you immediately go, well, that's not bad because now I know she's straight.
All right.
He's keeping her coochie warm for you.
Yeah,
See,
no,
we
like,
both win.
now I know she likes guys. Perfect. Like that's that. That is that.
We have won. All of us winners. You know, you
All
just
of us
walk up, high
winners.
five the guy, and leave.
That's right. That is what that
Just-
is.
That is such a. There was no losers. We all learned something. Oh, God, like I could just smell the PR speak coming off of that line. I was like, "Are you serious? That's stupid. That is like drunk stupid. That is toddler like head first into the wall eating glue stupid.
It's just
Why even say that?
It ain't good. It ain't good. So, we should probably clarify a little bit since we've been ranting for like 6 minutes now, and we haven't, or I've been ranting for 6 minutes. Sorry, and we haven't really discussed the issue here. So, does anyone want to give an explanation, or?
I'm down.
All right, go for it, Taylor.
All right, so we're gonna do this quick and dirty, like that guy that helped you find out your girlfriend was straight.
Yay!
So the OGL, or the Open Game License, essentially allows you to use D&D as a foundation for other content. So like third party things. Like I know Lord of the Rings and something else actually has their own tabletop RPG system based upon D&D, and even Pathfinder uses aspects of the OGL to reference some mechanics that are in D&D. And so the
Sorry,
Open
I had
Game
Facebook
License
open
is,
for those who just heard that. Sorry.
yeah, it's what essentially it's Wizards of the Coast saying it's cool to do this. This is the principles and rules we want you to follow by. And it's been a staple for years, and it was actually considered one of the main reasons why 4th edition bombed, because 4th edition wasn't part of the OGL, and then 5th edition came out, and 5th edition blew up because of like third-party content from people like Cobalt Press, Darrington, which is the Critical Role publisher, and that's what helped make 5th edition really popular. That's what even like made me enjoy it, because if like the core books didn't have rules I liked, I could go and find rules for ship combat that integrated back with D&D. I could go and look up other creatures from different monster manuals if there wasn't something I really enjoyed from the core books. So at one point, Wizards of the Coast went, you know, all this goodwill, and essentially think of them as mods, went, you know what? We haven't stepped in dog shit lately. What can we do? So they adjusted 1.1, which is the new air quotes OGL, which has, I think, been scrapped. They're going with 2.0 because 2.0 makes everything better. So 1.1.
It's twice as good, Taylor. It's twice as good. It's two instead of one.
That's
that means
twice
it's
the
twice
fuck you
as
over.
good.
Oh my gosh,
It's
they
so
can count
good.
at least twice as high as they could before. No way.
Right?
With these executives, that wouldn't surprise me now. So they came out with 1.1 and it got leaked. And there was new rules on royalties. So if you made so much money, you had to report your content to Wizards of the Coast. If you made $750,000, which is a lot, you would then have to give royalties to Wizards of the Coast. And I think you had to report it regardless. I think you had to tell them about it, no matter if you were making money or not. Which screwed over Kickstarters. It screwed over people doing their.
Well, remember, there's
Like
something very
Patreons.
special about that pertaining to Kickstarter.
Oh yeah, because it's gross. It was gross revenue. So the problem is Wizards would take. So if you made $100,000, like you say you made $1 million, Wizards would take a cut of the million. Then Kickstarter would take the cut, and then you would get the money you need for the project. Even though Wizards would have nothing to do with it. Then there was, I think they had a term for it. There was another part of it where if you made content for Dungeon, like you made it based upon Dungeons and Dragons mechanics, under 1.1, Wizards of the Coast could claim ownership. So if you say, for example, Dan made the puppy launcher campaign based upon 5th edition, and Wizards went, you know what? That's a pretty good idea. And then they could take it, put it into a core book, trademark it, copyright it, and Dan can't do anything with it anymore. And if they're like, you know what? Fuck Dan in particular. There was also a provision where they could completely cut you out of the OGL.
Yes, all they'd have to give me is 30 days notice. And something else that's worth pointing out. In the OGL 1.1 leak, in that little clause where it says They can use your material if you're using the OGL without your permission, without royalties, without your blessing, even without your knowledge. They didn't even have to tell you they were doing it. Something interesting that people have missed is they state that this isn't the case in OGL 2.0. In OGL 2.0, they say we would never use your material without your permission or your consent or your agreement. Here's the thing everyone's missing. Okay? If you are signing OGL 2.0, they have your agreement.
Yep.
All they're saying is, listen, as long as you don't sign, we won't screw you over. Now sign or you can't use this.
Which is, it's like, why? Like, what benefit do you get from it? Because you're still going to sell players handbooks, you're still going to sell Dungeon Master's Guide, monster manuals, Mordenkainen's, I don't know, Grand Ole Fuckfest. You're gonna sell books. Like, why do you need to bully these other companies that don't have anywhere near the market share, the marketing, brand recognition? Like, there was no point in this. There was all it did was just take a huge dump on their brand. Like, there's no, like, there's no good business sense here. Or am I crazy? Like,
No, you're right. Sorry, I was shoveling food into my face. I feel bad because Nico hasn't really gotten to talk much because I've been screaming and you've been laying down what's been in the document.
That's all right.
Nico, hot take now. Go.
Well, I mean,
all right.
There's a lot of
good talk.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of really bad things, of course, coming through with this OGL, and I've seen somebody had posted a TikTok because I was watching earlier today, and he was calling their customer support like, "Hey, I don't have like a D&D Beyond thing to get rid of the subscription. Yeah, D&D Beyond subscription. Halfway through him like telling them, "Hey, I don't think this is cool. We shouldn't go through with this kind of thing, and you're getting a lot of backlash for it." They hung up on him in the middle of that.
That's not surprising. I mean, to be fair, it's not that customer services rep's fault that this is happening. They probably don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, it's funny to me when you're calling to give like a form of complaint since you can't do anything about it, but then they just cut you out completely.
I mean, I don't know what else outside of emails and letters. What else are you supposed to do? But yeah, and the thing is that I don't really get about this is, Taylor, a lot of people don't seem to understand this, but I do. I can tell you why they did this, and it's not just as simple as greed. Yes, greed is the underlying cause here, no doubt, but it's not quite that simple. Danielle mentions in the chat, many people illegally download their content. That is true, but that has nothing to do with this, though. Having a stricter OGL won't do anything about that. Piracy won't be any harder just because they're saying, hey, don't pirate our stuff, like we've already been telling you to do, you know? But the problem is, the reason Wizards of the Coast did this, in my humble opinion, is because third-party content creators like Grimhollow and Pathfinder and everyone else who make their own products that use the OGL, there are so many of them, and there are so many more of them, that Wizards of the Coast can't keep up with them. They can't. It's not physically possible. Wizards of the Coast could have round-the-clock writers, hundreds of them, just working nonstop every day, every hour, every minute, and they would never be able to keep up with the amount of fan content. It's just not possible. But, and here's the big but, all these third-party companies that make these materials that are usable, if all they had to do was just sign a piece of paper, and now Wizards of the Coast gets, even 5%, even if it was just 5%, that is a big chunk of money they're getting for doing nothing all of a sudden. And not only that, it makes it so that way they can push people out that they don't want. Whenever they mention, well, this would help us prevent bigoted and hateful content, that was already baked into the OGL. That's a lie. That is just a blatant lie with the new open game license. I should explain this since Danielle did ask. The open game license is an agreement that Wizards of the Coast created back in the early 2000s. I think it was like 2000, 2001, around then. very early on, and one of the co-authors is actually the founder, or was also the vice president of Wizards of the Coast when it was written, and it was written for 3rd edition. And what it means and what it does is it says people who wish to make content for Wizards of the Coast's products like Dungeons and Dragons are allowed to do so using trademarked Dungeons and Dragons terms, ideas, and concepts and mechanics, as long as they follow some strict rules, don't overstep any boundaries, and don't use any specific trademarked names or materials from D&D's official settings. The trade-off for this was Dungeons and Dragons had reasons for people to go buy their game because now they have all this extra material they can use with it that Wizards of the Coast doesn't have to spend manpower making. So it was mutually beneficial. Maybe Wizards of the Coast wasn't receiving any money from the sale of these books, but they also were having people buy their books to go play with those books.
Yeah, because D&D is still the foundation of of those materials.
Yeah.
I can't run off and pick up Tal'Dorei Reborn and play it because it doesn't cover character creation. It doesn't cover. I still require the core books to do anything. So it's not like Kobold Press was stealing their profit share. The only thing I can think of is the other reason why I think they may have done this is they saw how air quotes popular Pathfinder was becoming and how it was kind of becoming the new alternative to D&D, and since they're like, oh, Pathfinder is using the OGL, we're having a Dota situation where, for those of you that don't know, Dota was originally a Warcraft mod that got so popular it made its own genre. And when Blizzard re-released Warcraft 3, they put in a thing there: if you make a game mode, we own it. And I'm thinking maybe this was Wizards of the Coast's attempt to try and stop that from happening again. They're like, we have there's Pathfinder out there, and it's taking so much of our market share, 2%. We got to stop this. And so the OGL 1.1 was a way to try and curtail that kind of thing, but it doesn't make you look good. And Pathfinder is nowhere near on the level of D&D, so why?
And I think the problem too is I think they were worried that the next version of D&D, I'm wondering if they were worried that it wasn't going to be as successful as 5th edition was. I really do wonder about that. Because this is this is not something you do if you're a healthy company that's getting by just fine or has full confidence in your products. You don't do this if you think there's nothing to worry about.
That actually kind of makes sense in a way.
Yeah, I mean, but their player base already with who all gets 5th edition books and all of the the extra additional expansion books they have. I feel like that's enough because I mean they're making money still.
So,
but they want more money, more ideas,
more money.
More
well,
money.
But yeah, so there's that. So they want all the money. They want Pathfinder's money. They want Tal'Dorei Reborn's money. They want to, but also I think to Dan's point, it might be just lack of confidence in 1D&D because it hasn't been because I feel like 5th edition had hype behind it. It was oh, this is the brand new edition, and 1D&D just kind of it kind of feels like the Wii U of D&D. What is
That's exactly
this?
what the fuck it is.
Could it be seen as monopolizing the genre of game? Because
no, it does not fall under that. I will give them that. Okay. This is not. It would be a monopoly or them attempting to form a monopoly if they said any concept or any game you create where you roll dice and see if a thing happens or not is officially ours. That would be an attempt at monopolization.
Okay.
Yeah, this is more TTRPG specific and the kind of the what's the term, the ecosystem that involves the OGL.
Yeah, and it's
also
go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna be frank with you guys. I didn't know anything about the OGL stuff happening until it was brought up by you, Dan.
Oh man, I mentioned it to Danielle as soon as I found out, and I was like, this is gonna be a problem. This is gonna get big. This is not gonna be a small thing. And
Yeah, I
yeah,
tend to make it a habit of not looking too much into things or like keeping up with news because I'm very much not really big in seeing other people's like opinions, I guess, on certain situations. For instance, politics. I'm not a fan of that, so I kind of steer clear of it completely, so I never have to worry about it. And
it's
this is
different.
what
It's
happens.
different when it's something that will impact you or people you know.
Yeah, yeah. So I kind of came at the subject a bit late compared to you guys.
So initially, I didn't know how big it was gonna get. I think I was kind of like cynically going like, okay, this is gonna be on some of the like the niche DM YouTube channels. I'm gonna see this for about maybe a week to a month, and nothing's really gonna get done about it because this is the like actual like D&D game side of things where Dungeons and Dragons has kind of become a, and I hate saying this, I'm going to get really into PR speak, is a brand. Like it's the, and there are more people that engage with it outside of, and then there's just like the more casual TTRPG people that are just like showing up to their kitchens and playing D&D every once in a while and having fun, and like they're not really gonna like engage at a level or this deep in the rabbit hole. But then when like YouTube channels that never cover this kind of thing started talking about it, I'm like, oh, this isn't good. Like this is starting to, and then like Gizmodo and IO9 reported on it. That's when I went, oh shit. There's a PR nightmare brewing and they are not ready for this. And then when the leak about the D&D Beyond subscriptions came out, I'm like, you just done goofed because you have explained where your weakness is and people are about to hit it.
And it's hard because like with D&D, this is the thing too. In terms of tabletop RPG popularity, if I hear someone is playing a tabletop RPG, if I guess they're playing D&D, I'm probably 65% chance easily gonna be right. Especially if it's someone who I know is a casual player or a normie, you know what I mean? Someone who doesn't engage in nerdy hobbies typically and stuff. If they tell me they're playing a tabletop RPG, they're playing D&D. Just it's that simple. It's obvious.
Yeah.
And part of me, I had a talk with someone about this, and I wanted to know what your thought on this was, Taylor. Um, I genuinely think this is not an exaggeration. This might be one of the worst things a major brand of tabletop gaming companies, all tabletop gaming, has just ever done. Ever. And the reason for that is because so some companies like say Games Workshop are very strict about their IP. They're very, very strict about their copyright. Super strict. But you know what they never did? They never pumped up third-party companies that were making content based off of their content, promoting them, pushing them, openly advocating and using them for popularity, and then waiting 20 years after doing that and then going, "We own your shit now."
Yeah, like Games Workshop, as much as people like to give them hell over things, they're consistent. Like that's
Yes,
from day one. They're like, this is our stuff.
yeah, I don't know any company that's ever done this. Ever. This is new. This is brand new. I've never known a company to make sure that there's this enormous foundational following that's based almost entirely on third-party exposure. Most people who know about D&D in the modern day who are exposed to it, I'd be willing to bet they didn't get into it because they saw a copy of the player's handbook on a shelf somewhere. They saw Stranger Things, they saw Critical Role, or they had a friend who told them about either of them, and then they got into it through that. I guarantee it. I would almost be willing to bet my life that half of the modern players that started playing in the past 5 years, that's where this started from for them. I would be willing to bet anything on that. And to have a company wait for stuff like that to happen, and then once they've got everything established, once all these companies have done all this legwork for them to get everything established and have a solid foundation, just flip the chessboard and say, actually, I own all the pieces on the floor now. Pick them up for me and hand them to me, you peasant.
That's the part that so from a very cynical business perspective, that kind of it's one of those where it makes the move kind of clear, but it doesn't make it any better. Like it's still stupid, But it's like, okay, I see the train of logic is that they have built up this audience through third-party people like Critical Role, Stranger Things, all of these third-party avenues. And their hope was that they could flip the table and be like, okay, all of you here, come to us. Like kind of forcefully pull that revenue in, like pull these third-party people in and try to get those revenue streams moving back towards Wizards of the Coast, because ultimately that money isn't going to them. It's insignificant. Like it wouldn't be enough to keep probably their main office open, but it's still a decent chunk. And so they wanted to pull that in, make it official, like make that like, here we go, part of the D&D family.
I heard you want to be creative and add stuff to our game. How about you pay us? You get nothing from it, but you pay us,
Right.
and maybe you can use it.
And I get it. Like, I really do. I understand that if you were the ones who made D&D and you saw, all these companies that are making money, and even then, they openly say the $750,000 margin that they were pushing for royalties, they said it was only like 5 companies that were doing it. But, like, I get seeing these companies that are profiting off of your brand, and you're not seeing a damn penny of that. I get it. I can see why that might rub you the wrong way, why that might touch a nerve, but this is not the way to go about it. This is not...
No.
You can't just foster this much goodwill among your community as a community. You know what this is? This is like when you work for a company and the boss keeps telling you we're all a family.
Yeah, but then they like 2 weeks later they lay off half the department, and you're like, I thought we were a family. I guess we're not.
We're a family.
All right, everybody, let's have a pizza party.
Yeah, by the way, we're not paying you for the time that you're in this break room eating pizza, so hurry up.
Oh, God damn it.
But
I thought you were paying me for the pizza.
So I would like for us to go over, if we could, the statement that we got back from D&D Beyond, but the D&D Beyond staff about this subject. I'm going to drop a link to it in our Discord, so that way we can all access it. But I thought we would just go over this bit by bit, if that's all right.
Got this bad boy pulled up.
So just let me know when you're all there.
Yep. I am up.
My chair is so loud. All right. So I'll start for us. When we initially conceived of revising the OGL, it was with 3 major goals in mind. First, we wanted the ability to prevent the use of D&D content from being included in hateful and discriminatory products. Second, we wanted to address those attempting to use D&D in Web3, blockchain games, and NFTs by making clear that OGL content is limited to tabletop, role-playing content like campaigns, modules, and supplements. And third, we wanted to ensure that the OGL is for the content creator, the homebrewer, the aspiring designer, our players, and the community, not major corporations to use for their own commercial and promotional purpose. The first thing I have to say about this is, motherfucker, you're the major corporation.
Yeah, it's very much, it's kind of like Skynet going, listen, us here at Skynet, we don't like to be violent, and we're trying to avoid violent situations, but our hand is forced. Bam.
We're going to murder you to prevent you from being killed by evil robots. By killing you with real evil robots.
Yippee!
But, so the first line here, discussing the D&D content from being included in hateful and discriminatory products. Who? Who asked? Who was worried this was happening? First of all, this was covered by OGL 1.0, first and foremost, okay? So we can get that out of the way. You could just take that right the fuck back. That's done, okay? No. That's a lie. That is a blatant, filthy goddamn lie.
But, Dan, what if someone makes Puppy Kicker the TTRPG and the puppies have AC?
Then I would be $60 poorer as soon as that rulebook came out.
Yeah, frankly, that's my favorite campaign of, like, all of them.
But just, no, this came out of nowhere. There was no one who was looking at this going, but guys, the new OGL, it doesn't protect marginalized communities. You don't understand. No one was doing that. No one was worried or thought about that for a second. That crossed nobody's mind. This is virtue signaling. This is just screaming, we're good people. See, we said the good things. We said the good guy things. We're the
Wait.
good peoples.
Listen, Dan. I have horrible night terrors about Hitler Nazi TTRPG involving D&D. Okay, listen. It's all that keeps me up at night.
Fuck
I
you.
am so worried.
Give me Wolfenstein the TTRPG.
We're speaking for the people. The people like these words. These words are really good, and people love them.
Yes.
Let's use them. All of them.
Okay. So second, we wanted to address those attempting to use D&D in Web3, blockchain games, and NFTs by making clear that OGL content is limited to tabletop role-playing content. No. No one was worried that there was gonna be D&D NFTs, okay? No one was sitting here going, but what if I can right-click a JPEG? Okay? No one. No one.
So, well, what's even weirder is that, okay, so first of all, I have a very special relationship with Web3, and I hate it. I think Web3 is stupid. But anyways, the thing is, if someone made a D&D NFT, the original OGL wouldn't protect them because that's getting into trademark. I can't go over and like make Dungeons and Dragons branded dildos. I can't do that. I'd have to go get their permission to use their marketing, their logos, any of their iconography or trademarked monsters. Like that's been the thing with NFTs. They have been constantly being sued over this. So like the law, well, for the US, the law pretty much went, no, you can't do this. Like unless you can't use our you can't use their iconography anyways, legally. Like you didn't need the OGL for this. Legal had it handled.
Yeah, no,
I'm still astonished by NFTs in general. Like I guess I get it because like NFTs in my mind just kind of came out of nowhere anyway.
You're stupid.
But also like I don't understand.
No, so yeah, this was not a concern for anyone. No one was worried about this. And third, we wanted to ensure the OGLs for the content creator, the homebrewer, the aspiring designer, our players, and the community. This is just blatantly false. This is just blatantly false. You would not be putting in things that actively penalizes people for being successful with their product and their design if you were trying to look out for them. You wouldn't do that, you know? And the thing is that a lot of people haven't noticed, and I think Asmongold pointed this out, right? So let's say I make the next Dungeons and Dick Lords 6.0, okay? I make it. And it goes big. I become popular. I become huge. Okay. Well, first and foremost, Wizards gonna take 25% of that. Just right out of it. Just gone. 20% if I went through Kickstarter instead. Okay, cool. Well, guess what? Now, I'm gonna pay 30 to 40% taxes on that, on top of that. Okay? That $1 million I just made, I might see 300,000 of that. Before expenses, before paying staff. Because if you're making something that successful, you have staff. You have staff and facilities.
Yeah, there's a team.
So, by doing this, you're just discouraging people. That's all you're doing. You're discouraging people and taking money. That's it. And so, when they follow this up by saying, driving these goals were two simple principles. 1, our job is to be good stewards of the game. And 2, the OGL exists for the benefit of the fans. Nothing about those principles has wavered for a second. That's just bullshit. That's just lies. These are just lies. They are just lying. They are pissing on my face and telling me it's raining.
This is so far. This is reading. Like back in college and high school where you had to say something, but you didn't really have anything to say, so you over exaggerated and like used extremely flowery language to try to hide the fact you have nothing to say. This is what it is, except they're trying to hide the fact that they're shitlords. Like this is what it's because they've repeated themselves. Like, oh, this is like blah 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 principles, blah 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 principles, blah blah blah. They've talked about their principles 3 times, not counting the little like not included in hateful discrimination. Like this is fluff. This is empty fluff to prove that we're not the assholes you think we are.
No, we're the goodmans. We're the good guys. You can tell we're the good guys because we use the inclusive word. And also, apparently, my lovely wife, took the dog out for me, which was very nice of her, and I deeply appreciate her. Also, I don't know if she can hear me.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate you.
Joke's on you. She's changing the wife license. to where she owns all your content. That's why she's taking the dog out now.
Yes, the marriage license. In the new marriage agreement, she just, in the event I do anything that displeases her, just anytime I look at a box of cookies and consider buying them, they all go right to her.
Isn't that like how it is anyway?
How it should be.
Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Nico asked if that's just how things are anyways. Yes. Yes, it is. But
Yeah.
so this no, nothing they were doing was protecting D&D. Does anyone here think Wizards of the Coast was at risk of losing their rights to D&D or their creative control over D&D? Does anyone here think that was like does anyone here think that was a thing?
So if I go bang my head into a wall about 23 times and then come back, I may have the delusion that could happen. But as long as I'm sober and don't have brain damage, no. That's what your legal's for.
Taylor said come. Anyways.
So considering the like biggest TTRPG I think of anytime I'm like, oh, tabletop RPG, it's always Dungeons and Dragons. I think they were pretty alright right out the gate.
Yeah, like, come on now. So the next line. That was why our early drafts of the new OGL included the provisions they did. That draft language was provided to content creators and publishers so their feedback could be considered before anything was finalized. First and foremost, when they say this draft language was provided to content creators, something people don't know is a lot of the content creators who were notified by Wizards of the Coast of these changes were sent this document with a contract they were supposed to sign. Now, this is a lie from Wizards of the Coast because let me ask you a question. In all the years you've been alive, have you ever heard of a company contacting someone with a contract that they need to sign? They have to sign it if they want to stay partnered with this company, but the contract's just a draft.
No, like every lawyer friend I have, every legal department would be screaming bloody murder if you told them that you sent out a draft with a contract attached. Like they would like the lawyer would literally jump over the desk to beat you with whatever they have available.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, no, just that's not. Yeah.
Or second of all, that lawyer would have screamed at you, demanding that you make it blatantly clear on the document, like putting a draft in the header, putting is a draft in the footer, or as many legal documents I have handled usually have, if it's a draft of something, if it's a draft of a contract, if it's a draft, like I had to deal with students applying for student financial aid, like there was if it wasn't an official document, there was a big watermark all over it that said this was a draft. This is an example. This is not something. This is not legally binding. To make it blatantly clear what this is.
And like the thing is, I'm not sure if it could be legally binding as a draft. I don't know how that works. Can you have something that is a draft like that is officially that you say this is a draft. This is a draft. This is not the finished version of this. Okay. And then sign it, and then have it still hold up in court? Is that a thing you can do? I don't know if it is.
I don't think it is because the main thing is what the court will care about is if what they signed is the exact. You can't come back and change it. If two parties agree on a contract, I've been bored. I was watching contract law because of this. Essentially, when two parties agree to the original contract, it's what's on the paper. Courts want to know what was on the fucking paper.
Right, the four-corner law. Or not law, but the four-corner principle, rather.
Yeah. But you can't come around and say, oh, it was a draft, we're going to change it. No, the court will look at you, the judge will promptly laugh, throw you out of the room. Because you can't do that. It is stupid.
For those who don't know what the four-corner principle is, basically it means when it comes to a contract or when it comes to an agreement, the only thing that matters is what is in the four corners of that paper that you signed. That paper. Anything that you discuss outside of that paper, anything you discuss outside of that sheet that you are about to put your signature on, doesn't matter. It's not worth a goddamn thing. Even verbal agreements, because good luck arguing that shit in court. That's just he said, she said at that point. But yeah, outside of what you signed on that paper, what comes later or what came in the atmosphere of it, it doesn't matter. That's the whole purpose of that. So yeah. So the draft language we provided to content creators and publishers, so that, okay, whatever. In addition to language allowing us to address discriminatory and hateful conduct and
Here we go
clarifying
again.
and clarifying what types of products the OGL covers, our drafts included royalty language designed to apply to large corporations attempting to use OGL content. Again, I'm going to point this out here. I don't think the giant mega corporation gives two shits about people anyways, but even if they did, I don't believe for a minute that any of the changes that came to the new OGL was to prevent Richard Spencer and the Ku Klux Klan from making the next version of D&D Hitler edition, okay? I don't buy that for a goddamn minute. I don't. And I think you're lying to yourself if you say that they are. No. Even OGL 1.0 has a statement in it that they could terminate this sort of content if you made content like that. So this doesn't matter. This is nothing. This is nonsense. This is a big nonsense that, like, no. What are you doing? All this is to me is, again, this is virtue signaling. This is just trying to get people to look at the situation and go, they must be the good guys because they care.
I'm still trying to process what discriminatory and hateful conduct they're talking about.
Yes, I need
Exactly.
descriptions, uncensored, please.
Oh, uncensored.
Oh,
So,
yeah, I got you.
Examples.
All right,
Yeah,
so they
I need descriptions and examples completely uncensored. Not from you. Not from you. I want to make money from this stream. No.
Oh, I was about to say that
from
they're
Wizards.
talking about those dirty.
But no, so again, yeah, no, that's just a smokescreen. That's all that is. It was never our intent to impact the vast majority of our community. That one might be true. That one might be true because the vast majority of the community isn't content creators. So, cool. I found the first not lie in this thing.
Yeah, it only took 3 paragraphs, but we got there.
Yay!
eventually.
Yeah.
We did it, boys.
And isn't it like true on a technical? Because like because a lot of the community are the ones making content.
Listen,
for
Taylor, listen. Hitler didn't kill most of the world, okay?
True, but the problem is he killed a lot of it, and he had a bit of a prejudice against some of them.
No. Listen. It was never his intent to impact the majority of the population.
I mean, was Hitler ever the one that actually like did it, or did he like
Okay, we're
gave
getting
the orders?
We're
to
getting
do
into
it?
dangerous
All right.
territory here.
Yeah, I'm just saying he gave the orders to do it. He didn't.
So yes, this is a truthful statement only from technicality.
Yeah.
However, it's clear from the reaction that we rolled a 1. OMG, guys, they're just like us. They said the thing. They said the
They
thing.
won that one. Yeah, they really
Yay.
did win that one.
Yay!
Bro, this wasn't a nat one. They were that guy. Like they're that guy at Warhammer tournaments. They were that guy at the D&D table. They were all that person. This wasn't just a single dice roll. Good people rolled nat ones. Assholes keep acting like assholes.
So, it has become clear that it is no longer possible to fully achieve all 3 goals while staying true to our principles. What does that mean? That means nothing. That is a meaningless statement.
Easy. Our 3 principles: money, profit, bitches.
Yeah, no. So, like, genuinely, without... Okay, let me get the exact sentence again here. Right? We cannot achieve all 3 goals while staying true to our principles. Okay. So, there's 2 things to this. Something one of you, or that you guys might not have noticed. The first point, we want to prevent D&D from being used in hateful, discriminatory products. Okay, why can't you do that while staying true to your principles? That makes no sense. Second, we wanted to address those attempting to use D&D in Web3, blockchain games, and NFTs by making clear the content is not for that. Again, how is it that you can't do that while staying true to your principles? Third, we want to make sure that major corporations aren't using this for their purposes. Again, why can't you do that while maintaining your principles? All I'm hearing is, if we want to stop bad things from happening, we need to be allowed to do the bad things. Okay, guys? Really, we're the good guys here. We want to make an omelet, but you're not letting us break those eggs. And honestly, and this is the part I think people are missing from this statement, that is a way of blaming us for this.
Yep.
That is the undertone in there. well, we wanted to stop bad things from happening, but I guess we can't do that if we want to have our principles intact. I guess.
Oh my God. You dirty, dirty consumers that buy our stuff. How dare you have concerns?
MK
And
Could they
says,
not
yeah.
have like done all this stuff with like OGL 1 anyway?
They did.
Yeah,
They did.
Yeah.
they easily did. Like,
Yes.
because
And
what's
MK
the
points
point?
out, what principles, Lamau? It's a corporation. Your principles are making money and making money. And here's the thing. I'm a filthy capitalist. I really am. I am a greedy little Irishman. I give no shits about big companies making money. I see no problem with the exploitation of, or not exploitation, sorry. No, I do see a problem with exploitation, but I do mean the
Freudian
extraction.
slip.
Freudian slip. The extraction of surplus labor from folks. I have no problem with that. I do have a problem with a company trying to mask and conceal what they're doing in their pursuit of making money in an unethical way, by my measure, and then lying about it. Just lying. Lying and saying we're doing it for a good person. Like, no, or for a good purpose. Sorry, God. No, I'm
For
sorry. Stop that.
We're doing this for Betty White.
I mean, you know what? I
okay.
would accept
Hold
that.
on.
I would accept that more than this.
Just like, listen, we're doing this for Betty White. Like, okay, we're cool then. All right, bye.
Betty, as it turns out,
Yeah, no
Betty
worries at
White
all.
was really into the IP rights of big companies, as it turns out. Okay, so the next OGL will contain provisions that will allow us to protect and cultivate the inclusive environment we are trying to build and specify that it covers only content for TTRPGs. Again, no one is worried that the tabletop community... Yeah, I'm no hammer and sickle person. I just don't like hypocrisy. Like I said, no one is worried that D&D isn't going to be an inclusive environment. The reason they keep saying this is they desperately hope you're gonna hear that and it's gonna set off the good sounds in your head and you're gonna think, oh, they care. They don't give a shit about you.
No.
Yeah, they're
No,
currently trying
like-
really hard to stop the bleeding, but the wound just keeps on bleeding.
Well, it's a tactic. This is a marketing tactic where, because like BP did this. Like, we're sorry, we're committed
sorry.
to helping the animals, but
Sorry.
we made an oopsie whoopsie, and we're gonna do it's our principles to do our best to help the environment. Like, that's what they're doing. Is they're diverting this camp, like, we'll call it a campaign, like very loosely call it a campaign, but like this backlash, that's a better term for it, backlash. And they're like, oh, but we're doing this to protect you guys from all the hateful, uninclusive D&D campaigns like Eberron.
God, I just...
What?
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
a tactic.
It's a smokescreen. It's a virtue signal. It's a smokescreen. It's a desperate attempt to get people to say, well, they must be the good people, so therefore this is fine. Like, no, this is so blatantly obvious. This is so... If you read this and you fall for this, I like, if that's all... And I don't think it is, but I swear to God, if this is all that it takes for someone who's mad at Wizards of the Coast, if all they have to do is say, listen... We're doing this for good reasons to protect people, not ourselves, not our brand, not our IP, but to protect you. If you hear that and that's all it takes for you to suddenly be okay with this, like if we as a society are at that point, we're fucked. We're just fucked. Like,
Well,
like, I'm sorry.
This would be like Dan showing up to work and not doing anything. And his manager goes like, Dan, why are you not doing anything? And Dan goes, oh, I'm not doing anything because I'm depressed. So I'm bringing mental health awareness to everyone that watches me, even though I'm not doing anything that I'm supposed to be doing.
By not working, I'm spreading advocacy for my depression. I'm depressed because I have to go to work.
See,
really
that's
be
what they're
like
doing. That's what they're doing. It's just this weird they're making themselves the victim of consequences they put upon themselves, but we should feel bad.
How was I supposed to
did
know there'd be
this.
consequences for my action? All right,
Oh, no.
So the next line here, the next OGL. All right, I read that. That means that other expressions such as educational and charitable campaigns, live streams, cosplays, VTT uses, etc., will remain unaffected by any OGL update. Content already released under 1.0A will also remain unaffected. Now, without seeing the new OGL that they're going to release, we can't verify this. We cannot
I don't
confirm or
believe
deny this.
that.
I believe that content under 1.0A will remain unaffected, but what I believe will happen is they'll say if you make any content, this is all theory by the way, so this is all speculation, but what I believe is by saying this, just saying content made under 1.0A won't be affected. And you know what? Content that was made under that agreement, I bet is true. They won't touch it. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them say, okay, so that book you made for us under version 1.0, okay, starting now, any expansion you make relating to that content is not under that agreement anymore.
That's what I think this is that they're going to try and, because they've been called out legally for this. Like some lawyers have come out and said,
Oh yeah,
Wizards of the Coast,
Paizo's ready to bend them over the table, bro.
So what I suspect what they're trying to say here is that content under 1.0 will remain unaffected. That's until 2.0 comes out, and thus 2.0 will then move everything under 1.0 into 2.0. So essentially 1.0 exists, but it's an empty shed. There's nothing there. And they'll move everything under the 2.0 agreement.
I don't know.
So good luck.
I think
I'm cynical.
yeah,
I don't believe a word.
I think, like I said, I think it's a case of everything that's 1.0 will stay 1.0. I just think anytime you make a change or an addition to whatever you had under 1.0, they're immediately any of that new material that you add or change, they'll just shift to the new one. That's what I think they'll do.
Like I think I'm more cynical than that. I think they're gonna find a way to lawyer this to where it's like, oh, it's under 1 point. Like, so for example, Dragonlance is currently under 1.0. Like, we'll just using as an example. But so you make content to expand upon Dragonlance or something, like you do whatever. But when 2.0 comes out, a little bit like what you said, anything going forward would be under the new one. But retroactively, they move that under 2.0 because it is compatible with 1D&D. That's the cynic in me sees them doing some kind of bait and switch here, where they're like 1.0 exists, but there's nothing underneath it once the new one comes out.
Yeah. What do you think, Nico?
I'm thinking maybe they'll like have 2.0 set up, and anything, of course, the 1.0 will be fine. But maybe they'll just have those that were under 1.0, like, hey, it's cool and all. 1.0 is really cool, but we won't let you, like, I guess, sell your 1.0 stuff unless you agree to our 2.0. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen. I'm also pretty pessimistic about the situation.
Yeah. So, all right. So we'll go to the next one here. What it will not contain, the new one. What it will not contain is any royalty structure. I would need to see that document before I would believe that sentence. I am not prepared. Yeah. I am not prepared to believe that without that. Yeah. Until I have a document in my hands. Yeah. Until I have a document
when I see it.
Yeah. Until I have a document in my hands, I don't buy that for a minute.
Mandatory tip.
They can't do retroactive contracts. That's just not possible. You're right. It's not.
No.
What a lot of people are forgetting here is it doesn't have to be possible. If you're some small third-party creator, you can actually get bullied out of your contract by larger companies that are beholden to you. So let's say I'm a small channel. If I made D&D content under the OGL and Wizards of the Coast says, you can't do that anymore because we decided you can't. And I say, well, the court or our contract says that I can, so get over it. I'm going to keep doing it. And then they take me to court. If I can't afford the legal fees for that, if I can't afford to stay in court and fight this and they can, it doesn't matter what I signed, because then if I can't argue it in court and stay alive and keep eating and providing for myself, it doesn't matter if I'm right. At some point, I'll have to just say, well, crap, I guess they win, because that's a battle of attrition. I just can't win. So it's not a matter of like, you are correct. They can't do retroactive contracts legally, but they don't have to. They just have to starve you out of it.
And that's kind of the sad bit of truth to this, is that they don't really have to win. They just kind of have to keep bullying. Of course, some states have slap laws, but that's libel and slander cases. Those won't really apply here. It's they can just litigate you to death, and that's kind of the sad part of our system. Like you hope, like maybe if you're lucky and you go out to Twitter and enough of the D&D people throw some money your way, or a lawyer is willing to go pro bono on it, but you're still paying court fees, you're still paying any sort of filing fees.
And those
God forbid,
those are hours of your life you're not getting back either.
No, God forbid there's discovery. Like your best, like as a smaller entity, your best choice is to settle. Your best choice is to unfortunately at moments to cut your lot.
Yeah, it'd be the acquiesce. You'd have to give them what they want. If you can't afford to fight it in court, it doesn't matter how right you are.
Yeah, our legal system is kind of not great for these kinds of things.
You'll find, Nico, as sad as it is, nowhere else in the rest of the world is. Believe it or not, copyright policy in the U.S. is probably one of the better ones, if I'm being honest with you. You should see UK copyright laws sometime.
Oh, UK copyright law is a monster. Actually, you know what? China has the best copyright law. They don't have one.
They have the worst copyright law. Jesus Christ. Theirs is a problem in the other way. Oh my God. I made this. Chinese government. I made this.
No, is it like those little shops that show up in some malls and stuff that have like the most knockoff things there? Like,
yes, they'll have like Disney characters on their walls and everything else like that, and there's not jack diddly dick that Disney can do about it.
Yeah, I found one of the times I went to one of these places, I found a little pillow that was it was My Hero Academia, and for them to be able to sell it without having like the licensing and all that jazz, it literally just reversed the graphics, so everything is just backwards on it. And I thought it was really funny, so I bought it.
Your villain dropout.
Your villain dropout.
For real.
All right, so it will also not include the license back provision that some people were afraid was a means for us to steal work. Again, I'm gonna need to see a document. I'm gonna need to see the document before I believe that. Sorry, that thought never crossed our minds. Bullshit. I
mean, if the thought never crossed your mind, why would you like go through
put it there,
all the process to rework it and everything?
Yeah.
Listen, guys. Listen, we don't want to steal your content, okay? It's just very important that we be able to do it. We won't do it, and we were never thinking about doing it. But it's very important that we be able to do it.
And again, this goes back to the Blizzard example with Dota and League of Legends, is that the only somewhat barely not really legitimate reason to have that there is to prevent someone from creating some kind of weird third-party change of D&D and having like D&D Royale or something, where they make some kind of super popular D&D Battle Royale thing and it gets popular and they're using D&D. But but Blizzard got lambasted for implementing this when Warcraft 3 Reforged came out. They got absolutely dumpstered because of it.
Right. It's just nightmarish. So, no, again, I'm going to need to see a piece of paper with that written on it in words, please and thank you. Under any new OGL, you will own the content you create. We won't. Any language we put down will be crystal clear and unequivocal on that point. The license-backed language was intended to protect us and our partners from creators who incorrectly allege that we steal their work simply because of coincidental similarities. What? What?
So, this one I get the logic here, but the thing is, it has gone so down far a weird rabbit hole.
What I'm lost on is all three of these sentences make sense on their own, but when you put them together, it gets real weird all of a sudden.
So this is
Like, this doesn't make sense. We weren't going to steal your content. It's just in order to prevent people from stealing our content and saying we stole it from them, we had to be able to steal yours. What?
It it so yeah, this is stupid because I know what problem they're trying to reference here, and it's so poorly implemented in this argument. It's baffling. So a lot of I'm trying to think. A lot of video games like Warframe or Fortnite or anything that where they have like skins or um anything where there's like fan content involved. One of the big reasons why the original creators won't try to pull it in without extensive agreements or some kind of program in place is because there is a weird legal gray loophole with fan created content. And oh, it was Raid Shadow Legends, but I'll get back to that example later.
Rady Shady?
Rady Shady. So there is a legal reason to like try and cover yourself. So for example, if someone like the example would be the ship combat rules. If someone comes out with ship combat rules, but then D&D comes out with it, and like theirs was in development longer, or whatever, like they would be in some kind of course, but then you could just implement some kind of like litigation waiver in like I think it's like that would even be in the OGL, like just like this is stupid. Like I understand the problem they're trying to bring up here, but the way they're handling it is stupid. Like the ability to own someone else's content doesn't prevent false claims. Like what?
Yeah, and the thing is, I get it too, because this is a thing that can happen when they say to where is it? Where's the exact wording? Because I want to be specific in my language here. Where is it? There we go. The license back language was intended to protect us and our partners from creators who incorrectly allege that we steal their work simply because of coincidental similarities. That's fair. That is something worth noting. That is something that they need to know about, or not know about. That is this is something that they have to be aware of and something they have to protect themselves from, because this has happened to other companies where they come up with a concept that someone else kind of has maybe done something similar to or something like that. And
Yeah.
then those people just come out and say, well, actually, that's ours now because the thing you made in that shed in my backyard, I made a thing that was similar to that like a week ago. And I know I didn't tell you about it, but I totally did. So I actually own that thing you made right there. So I'm going to need you to either give me the royalties for it or just just give me the thing. Just give me the whole thing.
And this happens in music quite a bit, where some kind of melodic idea appears in both songs. But like one of the big arguments with it is that there has to be a reasonable explanation, or there has to be a provable, reasonable situation where the person infringing the creative work had exposure to it. And some bumblefuck in the back end of Reddit, like Wizards wouldn't give a shit. So first of all, there's legal precedent that prevents that. There's things you can reference legally to demonstrate. There's copyright, publish date. If you're keeping proper documentation because you're a multi-billion-dollar business, you have the receipts to prove that you were developing this first. And then it's on to the other person to prove that someone from like Wizards came up and looked at the content, interacted with it. That there's direct like word for word plagiarism. Like there's so many like out of the OGL legal like court proceeding things that prevent this situation, that like having to come out in an OGL is stupid.
I know there's a lot of processes some big people have to go through. Like, for instance, with movies, they don't want to have a certain subject be mentioned multiple times that has like already been created, or if there's other ideas that are similar that are already out there. So that's why a lot of a lot of movies take a little while to like get greenlit because they have to go through the process. Like, okay, this is similar to this. We got to go work this out, make sure everything's okay, and then we can pay our royalties and all that jazz. So like, there's already like processes out there, and like, I still don't understand why they have to change the OGL
Yeah, this
in,
just this
in that kind of
yeah.
regard.
This feels like they're changing a social contract to try and cover weird legal like the things that they're saying that the OGL has to cover, the OGL can't cover. Like it has to like you're going through the courts and the law at this point because now you're kind of dipping into like trademark and copyright, which is that's a whole other thing that is handled by the courts and by lawyers. Like the like Joe Blow doing like the Great Furry Adventure D&D 5th edition can't like he doesn't have the resources to do this. Like what?
Yeah, no, it's I don't. I'll move on to the next line. And something else worth pointing out as well, though, when it says you will own the content you create, we won't. As I said earlier, that doesn't mean they can't use it. That doesn't mean that that statement they had in the previous one, where we can use any content you create without your permission, without crediting you, or without giving you royalties. Just because you own the content doesn't mean they can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, if it's under that agreement. And if they mention, well, we wouldn't do that unless you agree to it, like I said, by agreeing to the OGL 1.1, 2.0, whichever edition they come out with, you've already agreed to that.
Yeah.
The contract's already being signed either way. So.
Yeah, you've already agreed to that. There's no wiggle room there.
I wouldn't be surprised if in OGL 2.0 they have like a little, all the way at the very bottom, just like, oh, but like we will probably steal your stuff. Just don't worry about that part. We'll just make that really
no,
tiny,
it'll
like,
still belong to you.
2.5.
We're just gonna get to use it, and you're gonna have to deal with it. And as we continue to invest in the game that we love and move forward with partnerships in film, television, and digital games, that risk is simply too great to ignore. The new OGL will contain provisions to address that risk, but we will do it without a license back and without suggesting we have rights to the content you create. Now, that's very tricky wording here, without suggesting we have rights to the content you create, because that's... I don't know if they're using a legal term when they say that, or if they mean suggesting, or if I could just interpret that as it, like, you could almost, if you were feeling super uncharitable, saying like, oh yeah, they're not suggesting they have rights to it, they're telling you they have rights to it. It's not a suggestion.
All right,
Yeah.
so we're whipping out this program in one logic breakdown here. The new OGL will contain provisions, so there will be a provision to address this risk. They'll be doing it without so like the back, like the license back, and this is where because it's without, so they will do it without suggesting they have rights to the content you create. But like that leaves a little bit of wiggle room to say they can tell you no, you can't make it. Like you can't have like this is because they don't own it. They're just gonna say we have the right to tell you that you can't make it. There's a little that's getting a little liberal with the wording.
Yeah.
That's still kind of there.
Yeah, I'd have to. Yeah, again, a lot of this, I'm gonna need to see the 2.0 before I can.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna need to see the documentation and the exact wording on these things, because without that, I can't take any of the statement at its face value. I just can't until we have a piece of paper that says exactly what's going to be in that content agreement. This company has done this. Isn't it funny? I feel like if the OGL had never existed, I don't think this would have mattered. You know what I mean?
No.
Yeah,
like, they had.
If they had never made the OGL, if they had just been carrying on like, no, D&D is our trademark, everything relating to D&D that is unique to D&D, like the systems we've created, the rules we create, the setting, everything that is unique to D&D and that belongs exclusively and explicitly to us, I don't think anyone would have cared. I really don't. And honestly, they probably shouldn't have at that point, because at that point, it's just a company looking out for its IP. That there's nothing new there. But I think it's the whole fact that they spent 20 years, and I need people to realize this. That's not an exaggeration. 20 years of letting people do this, use this content, not only allowing but encouraging, actively promoting, even in several cases, telling people, check this company out, check this brand out. They make content that relates to our game. Check these people out. They make stuff relating to our game. Check out Critical Role. They make stuff relating to our game. And then after 20 years of doing that, then just kind of yanking the rugs out from them. And it's like, I understand why you might feel like you're entitled to that stuff. I get it, because it's under your license. But you can't just prop these people up and then kick the ladder out from underneath them. I'm sorry. You
No,
can't do
no.
that. There's no, even if you have the legal right to, let's say this was all legally on the up and up, that's immoral as all get out. I would have preferred you had been the greediest, bloodiest, most ruthless corporation ever and like stamped.
Nintendo.
Yeah, no, seriously. I would have preferred that you be as brutal and ruthless as humanly possible from the get-go, instead of letting people get cozy for 20 years on the agreement you had and then just decide to go back and yank that away. Like, and do it with such short notice, no less.
Well, that's kind of the key to this, is that because it would be like Bethesda saying you can't mod our game anymore. Like, we're gonna put easy anti-cheat on Skyrim and make it even buggier, and you can't do mods anymore. It's like, but that's how Skyrim has. That has been the big selling point of Bethesda games, and Skyrim in particular is this modding ecosystem. The big thing about D&D 5th edition is that you have all of this other third-party content that can fill the gaps that you don't like about D&D, and that's the big selling point. That's the big feature of it. And now they're either, like you said, going to completely like pull the rug out from underneath people, or they're going to make it so incredibly difficult to continue to do this that it's just not worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah, the whole creative side of D&D feels like it's just gonna go under completely.
I don't of D&D specifically. Yeah, who I'm really curious about is what's gonna happen to the people who only do D&D for tabletop role playing. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen to those people. Because in the event that this sinks Wizards, which I'm not convinced, I don't know what's gonna happen to those people. Like, are they gonna pick up another tabletop game, or are they just gonna, like, is it just gonna be that thing that they did that one time and they thought was kind of funny or neat because it was trendy with their friends, and then we just never saw them again? Or are they gonna make the switch over to Pathfinder or Call of Cthulhu or the other systems? Like, what's gonna happen here?
So like you said, I doubt this is gonna, what my kind of cynical brain is gonna, that 2.0 is gonna be watered down severely. Like, it's not gonna be 1.0. I don't think they're kind of dead set on trying to get out from underneath 1.0. But 2.0 is going to be extremely watered down. They're probably going to tighten up the IP, what you can and can't use. Like, you can't call it armor like class. You have to call it hit threshold or something, or something
Existence
stupid
points.
like that. Yeah, existence points. Yeah, my
Warhammer
existence points have
Fantasy
been
Renaissance,
lowered by the
maybe.
day.
As someone who played Fantasy, no. I enjoyed Fantasy. Fantasy died, and I'm not sad that it's gone. I'll be that guy. I don't care.
I've never. I need to get into Age of Sigmar.
I'll be that guy. I'm sorry. Listen, I liked Warhammer Fantasy, but I definitely see why it wasn't popular. And anytime someone tells you, oh, well, it's because 8th edition was bad or 7th edition was bad, listen, no. There was a lot wrong with that game. It was not popular for a reason.
I had a friend that wanted to try and play it. My conspiracy theory is this, because the big content creators, like, the big one being Critical Role, Dimension 20, what they're probably going to do is they're probably going to create their own system. And it's not going to be as big as in D&D, but it doesn't have to be. It just has to be big enough to make their fans happy. And they have the capital to, like, pull people in. They have Matt Mercer. to like come together, or they switch to Pathfinder would probably be the easier way to go about it, but they make their own, so they control all the publishing, they control the foundations, the game mechanics, and so they can make an RPG system that works for their live streams, that helps get their fans as close to that kind of experience as possible. So more role play, less combat heavy, that kind of thing. And they control all of it. That's what I suspect is going to happen. Is that if D&D goes under, it's going to like the empire will kind of break apart in a kind of more dramatic way to put it. Is that all these little like circles will get like they'll move over to Pathfinder. They'll make their own systems. They will do what will keep their community there. But if they're D&D specific, I think the ship sinks. Like if you are solely D&D focused and this goes under, which I don't think it will, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah, and it's worth noting as well. I don't think Critical Role would switch systems. I think they'd get an agreement with Wizards where they'd be allowed to keep doing it without problem.
I think that's more likely.
I think that's what would happen. Is they would just keep on keeping on, and Wizards would just be like, okay, that's cool. That's what I suspect. Yeah, that's more or less where I'm at with that.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me.
Yeah,
especially with all the traffic Critical Role's brought them.
Yeah, no kidding. And it's worth noting out as well. This isn't a problem just for. Actually, it's funny. When I was about to say this isn't a problem just for big companies. Actually, of all the people affected by this, big companies are probably the ones that are least worried about this. Yeah, because they've got the capital and the money to fight this crap in court. And if you've read the game license, it's pretty clear that they don't got a leg to stand on if Wizards tries to push this. Wizards doesn't have much of a leg to stand on, really.
No, there's a video by Legal Eagle where he kind of does a breakdown of this more on the legal standpoint, and this is where my I should get a life moment happens. So I was watching the video, and there's a lot of good points because the thing is you cannot copyright or trademark game mechanics. You can, or as long as someone's not ripping you off word for word, you don't really have a legal leg to stand on. So, like, let's say there's Mega Dan Corp, and Mega Dan Corp comes out with chambers and crocodiles that uses existence points and, depression threshold. Wizards can't do anything because it uses their rules, it uses their systems, but the wording is different. There's like the themes are different. The iconography of chambers and crocodiles, which I kind of want now, it's an individual entity. There's nothing legally they can really do without just trying to have a legal pissing match. So the OGL really was more like, it's kind of weird, but it seems it was more for Wizards' benefit than it was to like actual, because like it simplified like legal crap, because legally there's nothing they can do. Dan can make like a monopoly called Palopoly, as long as he doesn't use their iconography and he doesn't rip off their rule book. Like they can throw 1.1 or 2.0 up there, but as long as people don't use 5e or say Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards can kind of go screw themselves. They need it more than really the content creators need Wizards. As long as they avoid trademark and copyright issues, and save up some money, run it by a lawyer.
Man, well. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say about this at this point. Like, this is, I would like to know what was going on in that meeting when they made this, because I just can't wrap my head around it. I've thought about it, and like I've run it over in my head a few times, and this doesn't track. This just does not track. I think they thought this was going to be a small thing. People would make a bit of a fuss about it, and then it would go away.
That's probably what that's probably what they thought. Real quick, I'm gonna look up what the Wizard of the Coast CEO, what she did prior.
I mean, was it Hasbro or Wizards the one who worked for Xbox specifically in the transactional departments?
It was Chris Cox, and it's spelled exactly like that is unfortunate. Previous job. Oh, he served as president and chief operating officer of Wizards of the Coast in digital gaming since no. He joined Hasbro from Microsoft. That okay, so and then that kind of goes to my point. And this is something you see in like the more like not traditional, but the video game industry is that the people that actually made the video games, like the people that founded those companies, get their money, sell them off, and leave. And more, you get traditional business people into those jobs, and they become more and more detached. And if you don't believe me, you can go look at Square Enix to prove my point, and you can look at Ubisoft. Is that you have these business people that have no clue how to handle their customer base. They you saw it with EA and Battlefront 2. You saw it with Square Enix, Babylon's Fall. Like over and over again, you just see these decisions and you think these were made when they were jerking themselves off because they're thinking profit margin. They're thinking bottom line. What will make the shareholders happy? This is how you get the statement needs to be monetized more rather than we need to invest in our community. We need to invest in the customer base so that way they become more entrenched and they buy more of our shit. It's a growing it's a growing problem in the video game industry, and I guess it's finally coming over to D&D. And it's been a problem with Magic the Gathering for a long time, where the executives are not players. The executives are not community members. They're business people. Their objective is to make profit and make shareholders happy. Their job is not to make you a player happy.
I think if they had come out with this announcement and all they had said was, listen, we're going to make a new OGL and we're going to be doubling down on our rights to certain things. Like this concept in D&D specifically, that's ours. That belongs to us. That is our trademark. You can't just use that willy-nilly. If they had just said, listen, we're just trying to make sure that D&D stays ours, that it is our product and it stays that way and no one can ever do anything about that, I don't think people would have had the problems with this that they have. I think that would have been
definitely
better.
not.
No, and because that's not unreasonable. It's really not. It's just I can't imagine thinking this is going to be well received. Just how do you look at a group and say, or look at your customer base and say, listen, if you want to be a content creator, I hope you're okay with owning nothing that you make. Like I don't know how
this
you
is
can.
also like a situation with like, oh, we're gonna make this purposefully really awful for everybody so they get a lot of attention coming our way. Like, oh dang it, and then they fix it, make it a little less bad.
We're the good
So
guys
everybody,
now.
yeah, and everybody just looks at it and is like, oh, well, it's not as bad as it was. It's a lot better than it was.
Oh,
So
you mean
it's
they're
better
doing
for us.
they're doing the big ask strategy?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep, the big ask strategy. You ask for something big and imposing and like ridiculous, so that way when they say no, you ask for the thing that you actually want, and then it's not as it suddenly seems a lot more reasonable than it would have been if you opened with that.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's also kind of what I was thinking was gonna happen with Overwatch because everybody hated the loot boxes whenever they had them, and then now that the loot boxes are gone, and the shop is like super expensive. You're like, ah, dang, can we go back to the loot boxes? I know we hated them, but like, bring them back.
Or how
That's kind
about
of what I'm thinking might also be happening.
God. All right.
I would just rather not have shitty business models.
I think I'm pretty well. I think I've run out of things to really contribute to this at this point. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot.
I need to point out there's a petition in the description of this video to help maintain OGL 1.0. If you haven't signed that yet, if you could do us a huge favor and go check that out, that'd be great. You don't have to sign it if you don't want to, but if you do sign it, please do me a huge favor and just share it with folks that you know might be also interested in this. It was written by the former VP and co-author of that of the original OGL 1.0, and if it gets enough signatures, he actually said he would hand deliver it to the offices of Wizards of the Coast. And as of right now, this the petition is sitting at
14,211.
Nice.
I already had it pulled up.
Look at that. 2,000 more from when I looked at it last night.
Yeah, it's making headway. We just got like 6 more people right now. Oh, we're just they're coming in.
There you go. Nice.
Ooh, woo. Oh, also, if you really want to give Wizard of the Coast the middle of the finger, and you were stupid enough to get a D&D Beyond subscription, not calling myself out or anything, just cancel that bad boy, because apparently that's also what they're looking at. So if you,
Yes, it was stated in a leak from an employee in Wizards of the Coast. According to an employee from Wizards of the Coast, who we can't name, but this person has released an email from inside the company saying that in the discussion meetings from Wizards of the Coast discussing their customer base, the discussions are never positive ones. They are very, very unhappy with their community right now over all of this. The way that this employee described it was they see them as people as an obstacle between them and their wallets, which, holy crap. An exact statement from them was, I have never heard a positive discussion regarding the customers of this company from my higher ups ever. And it's like, and they're shifting the blame of how badly these things are going to their customers. And it's like, I'm sorry, Wizards, this is on you. This is on you. You did this.
I'm not sorry. My thing is like, if you want, here's the number one rule, like not number one rule, but here's a good business tactic. Don't turn your customers into your enemy. It does not end well for you. That's another thing the video game industry had to learn real quick. You can ask EA about it in their Battlefield series. Do not turn your customers into your enemy, because you are the one that will always lose, especially when you tell them how to give you the middle finger and they do it. Like that is the stupidest thing you could possibly do.
That's all I got, more or less. If you want to check,
They said they won.
yeah, it said that they won, and that
they won. Dan, they won.
I know, and so did we. Look,
and we won. Wow.
Everyone won. Everybody's a winner. Everybody won. Look at that. Look at us go, guys. High fives all around.
Wow, the only winners here are the Cyberpunk tabletop RPG players, because they're just sitting by watching this go down.
No, because they had to deal with their video game on release.
That's true.
Cries in Cyberpunk.
But yeah. Second, you're going to hear people say that they won, and we lost because making your voices heard has forced us to change our plans. Those people will only be half right. They won, and so did we. No, dude. Stop. All right. Well, I think I'm about done here for the night, guys. How about you?
Yeah.
Taylor's off in the bath. Taylor went to the bathroom, apparently.
I guess so. I guess he's off already.
All right. Well, thank you guys all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this stream, please leave a like and consider checking out some of our other streams or some of the videos on this channel. We should be back next week, I believe, unless something comes up. But thank you guys so much. Thank you, Taylor. I know you can't hear me because you're out there taking a tinkle. But Nico, anything you want to say before we bounce?
Not particularly. Besides, take care and have a nice week.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. We'll see you all again next time.